Most people spend their lives creating a bucket list, a list of things they want to do before they die. But very few people ever stop to ask, what do I need to stop carrying before I can fully live? In this two-part series, we're going to talk about the unbucket list. What needs to come out before anything goes in? And as I said, everyone talks about this bucket list they want to fill with, their dreams, their destinations, accomplishments. But what if the real key to living isn't adding more? It's removing what has been weighing you down. In part one of the unbucket list, we're turning the bucket upside down and examining everything we've been carrying that no longer belongs, from toxic relationships and unrealistic expectations to guilt, fear, resentment, and people pleasing. It's time to ask one simple question. Why am I still carrying this? You can't pour new purpose into a bucket that's already full of emotional clutter. Today, we're going to talk about emptying that bucket. Let's get started. Well, hey there. Welcome back to another amazing episode of the Life Diet 365 podcast. I am your host, Miss Straight Talk, and I am excited about this particular episode. This diamond just dropped on me a week or so ago, and I said, hey, I've got to have this conversation with my listeners. We're talking about the unbucket list. We've always talked about when we were younger, or even some of us that's like me in my 60s, or approaching 60. What's on my bucket list? We want to put these things in so we can attempt to achieve these things. But what about what's still in our bucket that doesn't serve us? So what if I told you that your greatest breakthrough isn't waiting to be added to your life? It's waiting for you to finally let something go. We've all heard that bucket list. Places to visit, dreams to accomplish, experiences to have before we die. And everything is like before we die. How about, before I'm 25, or how about before I'm 37, or how about before I'm 42? Why is it got to be before I die? You got to get that living mindset and not the dying mindset. And so today we're going to create something absolutely different. We're going to create the unbucket list. And like I said, I'm excited about this. This is not a list of things to add. It's a list of things that we're going to remove. So let's start with this. What's in your bucket? Think about that. You may even have to pause this audio right quick to really think about it. What's in your bucket? Imagine carrying around a 5-gallon bucket every single day. At first, it seems manageable. Then someone drops in disappointment. Another person adds betrayal. Your job drops in and throws in a little bit of stress. Your family adds a lot of guilt. You toss in people pleasing, a failed relationship, old mistakes, comparison, regret, childhood wounds, broken promises, fear of starting over, and the list goes on. Eventually, you're exhausted, not because life is hard, but because you're carrying things that were never meant to stay. Now, all of these things that I mentioned, these are things that will happen in life. I'm not saying that they won't happen, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't deal with them or even sit in it for a moment, but you can't stay there. You can't make it a part of what you're carrying. So let's talk about the emotional items that need to go. Definitely resentment. And I think that's something we all carry. So it keeps replaying like an old movie. So you have guilt, fear, people pleasing, comparison, perfectionism. Oh, perfectionism is a really big one. Old labels. But let's talk about these things. Guilt often enters the bucket because we've been conditioned to believe we're responsible for everyone's happiness. And maybe you're the peacemaker in the family, and there's nothing wrong with that. And maybe you become a caretaker who always puts everyone's needs ahead of your own. Or perhaps you've made mistakes that you've never truly forgiven yourself for. Healthy guilt helps us recognize when we've done something wrong so we can make it right. unhealthy guilt keeps punishing us long after we've already paid the price. And you need to ask yourself, if this is something that you're carrying, am I carrying responsibility or am I carrying unnecessary guilt? So just to kind of back this up a little bit, because I jumped right into that guilt because I was like, ooh, let's talk about this one already. But when I talk about your emotional bucket, I'm not talking about something you intentionally packed. Most of us didn't wake up one day and decide, I think I'll carry around some guilt, some fear, and some resentment and all the other things that's in this bucket. But here's the truth of the matter. Our bucket gets filled little by little. Sometimes people hands us things. Sometimes circumstances forces things into it. And sometimes we unknowingly keep adding it to ourselves. Over time, the weight becomes so familiar that we mistake it for who we are. But your burdens are not your identity. I want you to think about that. You're going to have to replay this because you're not going to be able to catch all this in this short period of time. So now let's talk about resentment. Now, resentment rarely arrives overnight. It's built one disappointment at a time. It's the friend who only calls when they need something, or a family member. I can raise my hand to that. The family member who never says thank you, or also people say thank you, but is the thank you hollow, or is it really filled with appreciation? The supervisor who takes credit for your work, the apology you never receive, the forgiveness you offered that was never appreciated. You know, resentment is often what happens when hurt remains unresolved. I think that bears repeating. Resentment is often what happens when hurt remains unresolved. It becomes emotional poison that slowly leaks into every area of our life. So we've just done two, guilt and resentment. You may find that you need to take both of these out. I think you do. So let's talk about fear right quick. Fear usually doesn't begin with us. It often begins with an experience. It could be a failed relationship, a failed marriage, a lost job, betrayal, being laughed at, being rejected, being bullied, watching someone else fail. That's scary right there because you see somebody else try to do something that maybe you're thinking about doing. They fail at it. You're like, no, I'm not giving that a try. And after enough painful experiences, fear quietly whispers, don't try that again. Don't trust that again. Don't trust him or her again. Don't dream that big because you don't want to fail and fall that hard. Fear convinces us that staying still is safer than moving forward. Fear convinces us that staying still is safer than moving forward. But listen to this. Lean in just a little bit closer. But staying stuck has a cost too. People pleasing. I'm not going to belabor this one because, I've done a couple of episodes on people pleasing. And I'm just going to say people pleasing isn't simply about wanting others to like you. For many people, it has been a survival strategy. And some as children learned that love it comes through performance. We learn to keep everyone happy, avoid conflict, and never disappoint. You really have to go back and listen to my episodes on people pleasing. Comparison is one of the easiest things to accidentally toss in the bucket. Social media makes it look like everyone is happy. And you might have one of those pages. That might be your page. You're making everybody think you're happy when you're not. That they're making more money. They have the greatest job in the world. They have the greatest podcasts. Here we are. Or the greatest social media account. Taking better vacations, building better relationships. What we forget is that we're comparing our everyday reality to someone else's carefully edited highlights. Think about that. They're carefully edited. How many times have you yourself gone in to make a picture look perfect? You've cropped and you framed and you choose the right thing because you want it to portray or display a specific message online. Comparison steals gratitude because it convinces us that what we have isn't enough. Comparison is stealing gratitude. Now let's talk about perfectionism. Guilty of this at times. I am guilty of this at times. Perfectionism often begins with good intentions. We want to do our best. We want to make people proud. You want to make yourself proud. You want to avoid criticism. Nobody wakes up and say, hey, I want to be criticized today. But somewhere along the way, excellence became impossible standards. And I'm going to lean into this one for a minute, because that's what perfectionism is, because we keep convincing ourselves, or perfectionists convince themselves that even when something is good, it's still not good enough. They have to try to make it better. Or if someone makes a comment that even hints toward imperfection, perfectionists will attempt to even make it better. And so you just continue to keep trying to make something perfect when not everyone is always going to see it as 100%. So you have to create your standards of what you believe to be perfect for you and go with it. Just like me with this podcast. It's not as perfect as I'd like it to be, but I'm going to keep on going no matter what anybody says. So don't make them impossible standards. And now you're afraid to start because you might fail, or you're afraid to finish because it might not be perfect. Perfectionism doesn't produce freedom. It produces paralysis. If you are listening to this and you fall in that category of perfectionism, ask yourself this question. Am I producing freedom, or am I paralyzed? And then we get old labels. We put these old things on us, some of the things that have been said to us, some of the heaviest things in our bucket list are words spoken by our parents, teachers, former partners, whether married or not married, bullies, and even ourselves. We say things to ourselves, and we believe the old labels. Things like, you'll never amount to anything. You're too sensitive. You're not leadership material. You're too old. You're too young. You're not smart enough. Like, the list can go on, but you know what I mean by these labels. And those words may not have been spoken in a moment, but they've been living in your bucket for years. Ask yourself this. And the question isn't whether someone said them. The question is, why have you continued to carry them? And I'm telling you, this can go on and on with this unbucket list, but we're going to have a second part to this. And so I want you to ask these reflective questions. What have you been carrying the longest? Has it been guilt? Has it been resentment, comparison, old labels, jealousy? I haven't even talked about that. Who put it there? Even if someone put it there, you can take it out. It's kind of like going to the grocery store. You go to the grocery store, you have 5 items that you're going to put in your bag. You're going to put your potato chips, you're going to put your ginger ale, you're going to put your cookies, your bread, and your milk. But then someone passing by your bucket, they throw in steak, they throw in cheese, they throw in bananas. If that happens at the grocery store, what's going to happen? You're going to take those items out because that's not a part of what you what you're purchasing. So who put it there? But you can still take it out. Did you put it there? Think about that. Did you create these things? Comparison is something that we put in our bucket. Ask yourself, does it still serve me? What would happen if I finally let it go? So I'm going to give you an assignment. I always give an assignment. So you got your bucket, you got everything in there, whatever is there. You can look at it, have a memorial service, whatever you want to do, light a candle, write down everything that's emotionally exhausting you. Don't edit this list. Don't justify it. Just write it. Next, circle 3 things. Now, if you wrote like 30 or 40 things, you don't need to circle all of those. Circle 3 things. Those become your starting point. And as you remove those, then you can go back and circle 3 more, and 3 more, and 10 more, and 50 more. You get the point I'm making, right? And then you just say to yourself, does this still deserve space in my life? If the answer is no, then it's time to let it go. And then I want you to do a mirror moment. And I know sometimes we'll gaze or glance past ourselves in the mirror, but do we ever really take a look at ourselves in the mirror? And just because you've carried something for years doesn't mean you're supposed to carry it forever. And you can tell yourself that, hey, I've carried this guilt of the family. I've carried this resentment. I've carried this. Yes, I have. I own that. But guess what? It's not serving me, and I'm about to get rid of it. So I hope that you have gained something from this particular episode. Next week, we're not stopping with emotion, because sometimes our emotional clutter shows up physically. You know what I'm talking about. Lean in. Go ahead, lean in again. Them closets, them garage, them phones. Oh, we need to declutter them phones, calendars, schedules, financial commitments, obligations. In part 2, we're cleaning out the rest of the bucket. So, hey, I hope you've enjoyed this episode and you've really got something from it. Like, the Life Diet 365 is about perspective. And I don't think it takes us 30 minutes for us to dive deep. Let's get the perspective, get the listener moving, and get on with their life. So if you've enjoyed this, subscribe where you're listening to this podcast and share with at least 10 people. I'm looking forward to having the conversation with you. Until next time, take care. Bye-bye. And just like that, another conversation, another perspective, and hopefully another step toward reclaiming yourself. Listen, every time you say yes to everybody else at the expense of yourself, you're teaching people that your boundaries are negotiable. You don't have to earn rest, apologize for protecting your peace, or explain every boundary you set. Because around here, we don't say no with guilt, we say it with clarity. Until next time, protect your peace, guard your energy, and remember, what drains you will never sustain you. This has been the Life Diet 365 podcast with Miss Straight Talk. Thanks for listening, and I hope you will subscribe and join me the next time. Take care. Bye-bye.